Chelsea, awesome stuff. You have the two pieces here. I'm just going to look at the jump one first. I'll get to the other one in a bit. It probably won't be as detailed about the other one, just because I got to keep an eye on my time. But this one's looking great. There's some things that catch my eye, like big things, and then there's probably, you know, a bunch of polished stuff to do. And the big things aren't that big, really. I don't think it's that big of a deal. But one of the things is, I feel like at the back half of the jump, it's feeling like it's a little floaty in its vertical spacing. So I'm going to go in there and check that out. And generally when something feels floaty, it means that the spacing might be kind of even. And again, I'm just talking about like the vertical height of things. Your launch feels good. So by contrast, let's take a look at this. So I'm just going to trace like kind of the waistline, so we get a sense of the vertical up and down of this. Because I feel like on its way up, the spacing starts spread apart and then it gets tighter, closer together. But I feel like on the way down here, it's probably gonna read as a little even, which means you're probably gonna have to take out some frames, a frame or two on this downward thing. You know what I mean? On the downward arc. But when I say big things, this is what I'm talking about. I don't think it's that real. I don't think it's really like a big thing. You know? Yeah. So okay, I'm gonna just pick a frame, maybe like here. So here, like you have this nice big spacing, and then this spacing kind of reduces and gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, right? By up here, the spacing's really tiny, and that's super appropriate. But I think as you're falling, you kind of want to get back to like this distance over here. Like that distance should be almost equal to this distance, right? Like those things should be samey. You know, you can almost look at what your spacing was on the way up and copy it on the way down, and you'll be in a good spot. You know, so maybe here you did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10, you know, so 9 to 10 to get up to the apex, which I think is like around here as I'm tracing it. But here you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, that looks samey. That looks like 9 to 10 on the way down. But I still think, even though mathematically they're equal, I think here we need to like get this spacing to mimic more like this spacing here. So, because I don't know, all of the spacing here feels really like tighter together. So maybe you just need fewer frames by like 2 or 3 frames. So it's not always easy to figure out which frames to pull out or which poses to pull out. But pull out 2 or 3 and then check your spacing on the way down and adjust as needed. You know, I think that's going to help a lot. Let me keep this on, because one of the other things I noticed is the up and down of the run is nice, but I think it feels a little sharp on the down transition, which is like kind of like a bouncing ball exercise, or maybe I told you to make it sharp. But maybe it's a little too sharp on the down. So I feel like spacing wise, it needs just a more cushion. Like I feel like it's going like this kinda, and I'm feeling like the harshness of these moments where maybe it just needs to be a little bit more rounded because the legs are cushioning and stuff. This is nitpicky. It's just probably a tiny spacing adjustment, maybe on like the way up here. So like if this is your center of gravity here and this is the down pose, maybe we just need like a slight cushion on the way up just to make that feel just a touch softer. It's pretty nitpicky, that comment, so take it as what it is. So those I think are like the two biggest things that are catching my eye. Yeah. And then the lean in is nice, what you have going on here. feel like it all kind of starts a little abruptly. So let me see here. Yeah, I would just watch your spacing on some stuff here, because here it goes from, like, this is nice posing. We can see it kind of like hangs out here. But then in the that first jump feels kind of big, and then it feels kind of even. This is just little spacing tweaks. So maybe you just need like something a little more biased in between here. Something you can do here to fix that, like practically, how do you go about doing that in an easy way? Is if you take your cog control, like put a key here on your cog control, you know, and make sure you have a key here on your cog control. And then with this one in the middle, you can use you can just delete the key on this so that it's more like a 50%, or you can even use the tween machine or just your eyeball to get it more to be like a 15 or 20% close to where it was. But the spacing all through here on the cog looks pretty even. So I think you would want it to be like a real slow in, and then it picks up speed until the red foot lands. And when the red foot lands, it's going to start, you know, that spacing is going to get like a little tighter. I know I probably draw more frames than what you have in there, but just try to vary up that spacing on that lean forward to look like it's a fall and catch. Yeah. And then same thing here, like that's kind of big, so maybe you can ease into this one a little bit, because here's the spacing, here's the spacing, here's the spacing. So if we take a look at this, I imagine it's all going to look fairly even. So maybe this one you gotta like nudge back a tiny bit this way. Again, this is nitpicky stuff. I know I'm just talking about like little changes in spacing, but these little changes, you're gonna feel them. You know, this is like the detail stuff that we get into in polish, and it's gonna really help everything look amazing. But this already looks amazing, so yeah, I really like the moving hold you have here on the torso and the body. Really nice. And this like dip down, oh, that's really nice. I like that a lot into this run. Yeah, really cool. Okay, now I'm going to be even more nitpicky. This blue foot, I like how it rolls up here, but I feel like that spacing jump is pretty massive, right? So maybe you just need a tiny bit more, like maybe this pose needs to be a little bit more biased backwards, so our spacing goes more like that, and that would affect this foot pose. Maybe this one would have to be a little bit more, just a tiny bit more back, and then this one could also probably serve to be a little bit more back, and then I think, so just watch the spacing on that takeoff. And then also watch for areas like this where the foot is like kind of locked, you know what I mean? As the dip down happens, I think you could probably roll this heel up a little bit, you know, because the foot feels kind of frozen right there, you know what I mean? And this might be a fun opportunity too, like, I don't know, but that's just a little spacing though. Again, this is polishy kind of notes. But yeah, good stuff. Let's take a look at your other parkour, and this is the other one's parkour. I'm not sure what to call this one, but anyways, that's coming along. This is crazy. This is a lot of work, so this is crazy, but it's nice to see your passion is showing through. Really cool stuff. Hopefully the FK-IK switching is like making sense to you and everything. There's two little areas on this which catch my eye. The first is like right here at the beginning, this lean over. It seems like if you watch the center of gravity, it goes over to the left, and then kind of hits, and then goes back over to the right. And this feels a little like out of balance for me. So you're starting like here. And maybe just as a pose note, I would rotate this knee in a little bit. Like knees kind of point over the feet, but maybe that foot is like a little, I don't know. Maybe you could get this foot to be a little bit more rotated, the toe a little bit more at camera. So that's a little bit more like this. And that would give that knee like a more comfortable, natural looking pose, because here you start to rotate the foot around the ball anyways. So it would just mean you'd have a little less space to go, but that's fine. All right, so I know you're in blocking on this, but what I was seeing was that getting back to my point. The center of gravity goes right and then left, and it goes right probably a little bit too far, I think. That's all I'm trying to say. Like if you look at your reference, the center of gravity is still kind of, you know, even though the arms and everything are like over this way. So I feel like, yeah, I don't know, that could take just another little adjustment pass. And then there's something about it when it's in the air here that it seems to kind of lose the momentum it was having left to right, and that catches my eye when I watch it play in speed, but it's not that big of a deal. Maybe it's just when he gets into the tuck. I think that might be it. So if I'm watching, like here, let me get a fatty ball marker. That's not it. That's not big enough. I think I have pressure sensitivity on it, it's screwing me up, but I don't know how to turn it off. Yeah, I think that's what I'm feeling right there, is that it kind of like loses all momentum over to the side just in that jump up. I'll take a look at your reference to see what it's doing, but I think it's just this corner here, right here, that I'm feeling. So maybe this pose needs to be pushed over slightly that way in space, or when the jump up happens. So I see what's happening on the reference. It's really interesting because, all right, that's not it. How hard can it be to draw the ball? Like it does kind of freeze in space on the reference, but I think it has a little more like ease into this freeze here, where on yours like the spacing feels kind of even on the horizontal movement, and then it just shoots up. So I think if you're going to make this transition, you have to kind of like ease out of the horizontal move. You know what I mean? Like ease into this hold here. That's probably too many frames in what you have, but hopefully the idea is clear, that it's kind of like at least a little bit like an ease out like that over 5 frames before you start going up. Nitpicky stuff. Again, like I said, just the things that caught my eye. I mean, there's other little cleanup stuff, but I'm sure you know, like this foot is penetrating the ground on that transition. So I don't know. That's just little stuff. I'm sure that's just stuff you haven't gotten to yet. Yeah, but cool. Great stuff on this thing. This is exciting. Yeah, I'm glad you're enjoying it and having a good time. And yeah, hopefully those notes help. Let me know if you have any questions. And at least on this one, you know, get it like polished up and ready to submit for next week. But I think you're really close on this one, and I really like how it's turning out. So great stuff. All right.